Ready to go? Welcome everybody. So we're a little bit behind. We just had to sort out a couple of things. So I welcome you all to our council meeting. You're very welcome in this chamber. We acknowledge the Whadjuk people as the traditional owners of the greater Fremantle-Walyalup area, and we recognise that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important today. So just for your information, this meeting is being recorded and streamed live online. While all care is taken to maintain privacy, visitors in the public gallery and members of the public submitting a question may be captured in the recording. So attendance, apologies and leaves of absence. We have apologies from the Mayor, Hannah Fitzhardinge, Councillor Kamada, Councillor Van Dawson, the CEO Glenn Dougal and the Director of Planning Russell Kingdom. Do we have any applications for leave of absence? No. Disclosures of interest by members. I believe we have two. Councillor Williamson-Wong.
Thank you. I have two. The first is for C20505 4, which is the Wood Street item. My parents own 10 Stack Street, which shares a boundary fence with that, so I'll be leaving as it's a proximity interest. Similarly, for item C25059, 81 South Street is being changed within the heritage list, and my parents own 83 South Street, so that's also a proximity interest, and I'll be leaving for that item.
And Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you. In relation to, I'm trying to get the right one, C250510, the incredibly long list of properties for the South Fremantle Heritage Area apparently includes a property immediately adjacent to my own property and one directly opposite my property. So I need to declare a proximity issue for that item.
Thank you. Are there any others? No? Thank you. We now go to responses of previous public questions taken on notice. I don't think there was any, was there? No. So we'll now go to the public question time. Generally, we allow 3 minutes per person, but if you are all speaking about the same topic, it's good to support other speakers, and if you'd like to make it slightly shorter, that's great. We'll go through the general items first, and then we'll deal with the planning items second. So for the general items, we have Chrissy Mouse, CEO of the Chamber of Commerce in Fremantle. Thank you, Chrissy.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Good. Honourable Council members, as the CEO of the Fremantle Chamber of Commerce, I rise with deep respect for the collaborative work we've been doing together to shape the city of Fremantle. I speak tonight with big picture firmly in mind. Please take my questions this evening on notice as we respectfully ask that they be given deeper thought and rigorous, concentrated consideration. Before I go further, I want to sincerely acknowledge the work Council does. However, for the first time since my appointment over 2 years ago, the Chamber of Commerce finds itself in strong disagreement on a critically important matter Council recently passed on a split vote. We believe this decision has had far-reaching consequences and cemented a perception that Fremantle must now work to shake off. Our two questions this evening are anchored in our shared ambition to grow Fremantle into a thriving, future-ready city where more people live. This isn't just an ideal, it reflects the hundreds of hours we, all of us, and many others invest each week to attract students, residents, investment, visionaries into the heart of Fremantle. In short, we need more people living here and more dwellings built to make that possible as soon as possible. The balcony perspective needs to be woven into every decision-making frameworking. So here are my questions. 1. Is Council aware of the unintended consequences the current art policy is having on future development? And what does it add to our city's character, and what might it be costing us? In its current form, the policy may be working against our economic development goals. Is there a process in place to ensure it aligns with the city's overarching strategic objective of increasing population density? And has the policy been through a broad and robust, rigorous risk assessment? When the city's art policy, next question, when is the city's art policy scheduled for review? As part of that, could the following considerations be embedded in the potential rewrite to help make it fit for purpose? Number one, does the council consider how the policy is perceived by developers, the very people putting capital to address our pressing need for housing and economic activation? While we all treasure Fremantle's rich art culture and the contributions sought from while we all treasure Fremantle's rich art culture, the contributions sought from Human Urban under this policy was frankly eye-watering. It felt less like fostering creativity and more like penalising opportunity. This wasn't some faceless developer. It was a rare, brave team, Human Urban, putting $110 million forward on the table to breathe life back into a long-forgotten woolshed and to tackle a problem each of us has been trying to solve. To be clear, I say this with respect. The city's art policy, in its current state, reflects a culture that risks becoming idealistic to the point of being impractical, romanticising art while missing the broader need for growth and housing and revitalisation. The Fremantle Chamber of Commerce urge you to consider how can the art policy evolve to be better supporting both culture and commerce? Could we introduce more flexible or incentives to attract developers rather than deter them? And does this policy, in its current form, have the potential to undermine any economic development KPIs? We would say yes. Question two.
Chris, yes, can I just mention that you've already gone past the 3-minute mark?
I'll go super quick then.
Or perhaps just give us the essence of your question.
The essence of the next one is council aware of the reputational fallout from the council and JDAP decision on the Elders Wool store? Yes, the project was technically approved, but that's not the story being told around tables. Since the decision was announced, we've reached and received hundreds of texts and emails. My favourite one being, did we really derail a $110 million redevelopment for a skate ledge? I've visited the Elders Wool store 4 times this week and not one skater in sight. So the question from the chamber is that, let's lift our gaze. Can we get out of the weeds? Can we try and stop tripping over ledges, skate ledges even, when we should be building a future? Thank you. There's more, but I wrote it in the,
Yes, thank you.
But
We did receive the full document. I'm aware that the art policy, rather than taking these questions on notice, will respond a bit tonight, but they are issues that, certainly the art policy is, which we'll be liaising with the Chamber of Commerce on. So we'll carry on doing that. I just wondered if the Director of Creative Industries and whatever else it is that sorry, there is another part to his portfolio, and
the community as well.
Thank you.
Through the chair, thanks for the question, Chrissy. Yep, as the Deputy Mayor pointed out, that we are currently reviewing the policy. I will say the policies are quite widespread around the metropolitan area, and they have delivered a lot of great outcomes across Perth and across the country. As we mentioned, we're currently reviewing that. It currently allows for public art or heritage considerations as part of the policy, and I note that at JDAP it was also extended to potential public realm. So we'll be putting that out for public consultation soon.
Thank you. And I'll just add that the council did make that decision. It is a decision of council. However, it was a recommendation to JDAP, and it was JDAP that finally took the planning decision. But we will obviously work closely with the Chamber in the future. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to Shani Graham. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to talk briefly about an issue related to current council budget allocations and deliberations. We are here representing the West Beaky Bunch, a geographic community group of 370 houses and about 1,000 people, bordered by Hampton, Lefroy, Longford and Moran Court in West Beaconsfield. We gather regularly for community events and are a safe, connected and active community with an email list of 270, a Facebook group of 165 and 11 volunteers that deliver monthly flyers to each household. We have an unofficial pathway in our area which runs off the end of Milbourne Street to the cul-de-sacs of Hale and Maxwell. It ends at the sump on Hampton Road near Peaches. I walk it daily at about 5 p.m. with my goats, and I see 3 or 4 other people using it every day. However, there are issues with people, prams, wheelchairs, bikes, animals using the path due to its rough, rocky and sandy surface, especially this section down to Maxwell Street. It is an unkept area and people use it as a dumping ground for hard rubbish. There is also graffiti on the walls of houses facing the area. Frankly, it looks terrible. As a community, we have often talked about formalising this path and planting endemic species in this area, so we decided to meet and have a little chat about it. 30 people attended that meeting. After hearing from everyone, we came to a consensus that pending community consultation regarding design aspects, this group is supportive of a pedestrian path and endemic species plantings from the end of Milbourne Street to the end of Hale Road and Maxwell Street. The Beaconsfield P&C president could not attend but emailed the group to say that the path has actually been part of school discussions during their pedestrian safety meetings. And you'll know that group is responsible for the soon-to-be crosswalk on Scott Street. They have 4 priorities, including that, and the pathway is one of them. She also mentioned that a P&C volunteer has planned a walking school bus to use the path. It would collect students from Longford, Waterford, Roscommon, Leitrim, Moran, Livingston, Hale and Maxwell Road and use the path to safely access the school. The group believes a pathway will reduce car use for people heading down to Hampton Road, as it will be easier access by foot and bicycle down to the sump, along Maxwell to the planned new crossing at Scott Street, Hampton Road intersection. Our group is not supportive of the path going directly through the sump to Hampton Road. Due to security concerns and the entry point to Hampton Road being a very dangerous corner and intersection with Lloyd Street. The planned new crossing is only 200 metres away and accessibility from it to the end of the pathway down Maxwell to Scott is good. Whatever happens, this group is keen on some sort of bush rehabilitation in the area. Fremantle has a lack of open space and needs more tree coverage. This space could become a valuable community asset as an attractive parkland and would provide a green corridor up the hill. Most of Beaconsfield's open spaces is actually sporting ovals, so areas like this are even more valuable. Its development would also likely reduce the illegal dog use of Beacon Primary School's oval. Increased passive recreation in this area would improve security and illegal dumping. We have many willing helpers for planting and watering. There's good expertise within our group to organise this, with 2 of our members having worked professionally in bush rehab, and they can assist with species selection and planting days. A group of 20 people did do some planting 5 years ago on Milbourne Street, weeding it through a winter and watering weekly over a summer. Sadly, however, despite council assuring us they would be left alone, the seedlings were destroyed by whippersnipper, we think by Mains Roads contrasters. We were disheartened, but it was a while ago now, and 41 people have joined an email list to help this time around. When it came to design aspects of the path, the group had comments about traffic going down Delamere Lane, path lighting, surface suggestions, potential picnic tables and a mural. If works can be done, the group would ask for more community consultation regarding design. We can assist with the facilitation of this. In a nutshell, We are here to say that we would call on the City of Fremantle to set funds aside so that in consultation with our community, we can formulate a design to upgrade the area from Milbourne Street to Hale and Maxwell Street in Beaconsfield, improving pathways and landscaping. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Shani. We'll continue with the other presenters and take that on board as a general statement at this stage. And could I just remind people to keep the comments and questions to a maximum of 3 minutes. That's all right. Yeah. The next person is Fiona Wheeler. Thank you.
Good evening. Yes, I'm Fiona Whelan and I live in Moran Court and have done so for the last 25 years. And during that time, and as I am a walker and a cyclist, I use the Wasteland track at the end of Milbourne Road to Hale and Maxwell Street very, very often, almost a daily basis. I'm here today representing the growing number of cyclists, especially, for want of better words, older cyclists, in our local area who are using 2 wheels instead of 4 to get around nowadays, especially for local trips in the local area. For example, going to the Dog and South Beach, to the South Fremantle shops and to the Woolies shopping centre, all very close to our area. Milbourne Street track is a very convenient shortcut onto Hale and Maxwell, avoiding the hill on Livingston from Moran Court and Salentina Ridge, and the extra pedalling needed coming back up Beard, which if anyone's tried it is pretty hard. It's very steep. The track when cycling is always a tad exciting in that one never knows how the bike will handle the rough limestone track that is there, as it can change in its structure and appearance frequently, depending on who else has been riding through before you. And the sand and the stones get replaced regularly, making for an interesting but often potentially dangerous ride. And that's just the wee stretch from the end of Milbourne to the beginning of Hale Street. I used to try and ride down to Maxwell Street, but it's no longer an option as this track is very steep, slippery and dangerous, treacherous. And I feel it, for cycling, it is very dangerous. So I would like to see a sturdy pathway created from Milbourne to Maxwell and Hale cul-de-sacs, which would encourage more cyclists like myself to get out of their cars and ride safely to the beach and shops and cafes without the fear of falling off and damaging not only ourselves but our beloved bikes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fiona. I think we have 2 more speakers on this topic. Mandy Sharon, is that correct? And also Sarah Davis, is she speaking on this item too? Sarah? No? Okay, so we'll have Mandy Sharon and then we'll have a response.
Hello, I'm also a resident of Moran Court. We're a 4-person family, have 2 teenage sons, and we're a 1-car family. So I work in Fremantle, so I use the path multiple times a day to go to the Dog Beach and to travel to and from work. I think it's obvious for anyone that went there that it is quite a well-used path. But I think Shani and Fiona have already kind of presented that argument that there's a lot of community benefits by improving those connections through the suburb. I think I just want to also touch on the fact that I think we know in Fremantle there's a fair lack of open space. So I think that is the other strong advantage of the council helping to maybe do some earthworks and helping to landscape this space, because at the moment it's quite unloved, I guess, as rubbish there gets dumped. It could be a real community asset in terms of just generally providing a really nice area of open space that people would probably more likely to use if it was landscaped and felt a little bit more friendly to the community. So at the moment I think it's a really missed opportunity and a piece of really quite unloved land. We call it, locally in the area call it the wasteland, cutting through the wasteland to go to Hampton Road or the beach. So it would be great to see council come on board as they've done for similar kind of things in White Gum Valley and and show a bit of love to the Beaconsfield area. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Mandy. There are no more speakers on this particular topic? No. I'll ask the acting CEO to make a comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, thank you for your questions and your comments. We are aware of the Millbourne Path. There is a project proposal that looks at connectivity. There's a budget been put in the 10-year financial plan in respect to a path and lighting, and it's currently being discussed as part of the current budget process as well. So we'll contact you and let you know how that progresses.
Great. Thank you very much. Now we have Sarah Davis, who wishes to speak on a more general topic too.
Hello, Sarah Davis. Before I start, I just want to be clear that I fully support the motion to extend Honky Tonk into the upstairs space, and I don't view Honky Tonk as part of the super venue problem I'm about to address. I also want to acknowledge the early intervention motion put forward by Councillor Moughlin and thank every councillor who spoke in support of it. It did not go unnoticed, and it matters to know that some of you are already thinking about how to intervene before harm escalates. That kind of leadership is where change begins. Tonight, I'm here to speak about community safety, specifically the unchecked alcohol culture in Fremantle's super venues and its direct link to gendered violence. I am asking this council to stop looking away. What is happening in our venues and on our streets, particularly to women, is systemic and it cannot be ignored. Over the weekend, I visited 2 Fremantle venues. The first I will not name, as I believe they still have an opportunity to take responsibility and address what I witnessed, but I will say what I saw was unacceptable and dangerous. The second venue I will name due to their repeat offences that no amount of performative bathroom signage can mitigate. Last Sunday, I returned to Freo Social, a venue I've avoided for over 3 years now after surviving a serious sexual assault there myself. Sorry. I went back hoping that something had changed and to support friends performing that night. What I saw confirmed exactly why I stayed away. Incoherent patrons serve a high percentage alcohol, guards posturing rather than protecting, and hundreds of people aggressively pushed out onto the street within minutes of the music ending. No staggered exit, no safety, no care. Minutes later, a friend who had just walked me somewhere safe, in case so that I could get home, turned around and walked 50 metres, witnessing a clearly intoxicated man fresh from the venue violently throw his female partner to the ground. She was hospitalised with a badly broken arm and lifelong trauma, an experience I know firsthand. If you need more evidence that we have a male violence problem, this was the 3rd disclosure of violence I've heard from women in our community this week alone. We cannot keep branding Fremantle as the arts and culture capital of WA while simultaneously turning a blind eye to unsafe operating standards. Where is our leadership? So here's what I would like to see from this council. And none of this is radical, these are basic, reasonable actions. Trial a late night community safety team on the weekends, strengthen planning positions for larger venues, work in partnership with racing, gaming and liquor, establish a local working group or oversight board, pass a motion to press the state to act. Champion the Safer Venues framework developed with leadership from Fremantle's own Kate Daniel, among others. It includes clear steps, safe spaces, exit plans, staff training, signage and policies that actually mean something. It already exists, use it. And finally, stop punishing small venues and independent arts orgs who work overtime to deliver thoughtful, safe, inclusive venues and events. Unless you've been living under a rock, you will know that Fremantle is a completely new and rare position of power right now when it comes to putting pressure on for the well-being of our town. As someone who was lucky enough to be a core member of the team who helped drive that shift, let me say this clearly. The pressure is not off now that the elections have been called. An entire community has just seen firsthand what a united Fremantle can achieve in just 6 weeks, and the local elections are still months away. This isn't just a political opportunity, it's a community mandate. We have shown up, we have organised, and we are paying attention. We always were. So now the question is, will the council match that energy, or will you fall behind?
Thank you, Sarah. Did anybody wish to make a comment on that? No, could I just say that we will take those comments into any consideration we have for some of those areas. I mean, clearly some of it is a state government issue in terms of how bad behaviour and those sorts of things are managed. And the city does do what it can, and can certainly look at those comments in light of where we head in the next year and see what can be done as well. So thank you for coming along tonight and making those comments. So now we'll move to the planning items. So people who are here for just the general comments, you're very welcome to stay for the entire meeting, but it'll probably go on for another couple of hours. So if anyone would like to leave, they're welcome to. But we'll move on to go from public question time. So with the remainder of the questions, they're all to do with planning issues. So perhaps what I might do is just deal with some little bits of our agenda and then come back to the planning items and deal with the questions just before the planning items as we move through. So with petitions, we don't have a petition. The document that was submitted by the Laneway Group is in fact just more of a statement with people's names, so we'll get back to them directly.
Acknowledge their effort though.
Yes, definitely. They have done a wonderful job and have been liaising with Councillor Lang. So the deputations, there are none. Confirmation of the minutes, so I'll move the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council dated 23rd of April 2025. Is there a seconder? Councillor Thompson. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. Elected member communication. Is there any? No. So we'll move on to reports, the planning reports. So we'll go to item number 1, which is High Street, number 81. Partial change of use to tavern and internal additions and alterations to an existing building. So I'll invite Nick Capozzi as the first speaker on this item. Thank you.
Good evening, councillors. I live at Unit 1, Number 4, Bannister Street. Our external wall is 100 millimetres away from Honky Tonk's external wall. Our wall is 180 millimetre solid concrete with a 75 millimetre inner lining. Honky Tonk has a double brick wall. We have an ongoing noise issue with the current club that has been going since the day they opened in 2023. We had already been there more than 10 years with no problems till the nightclub opened its doors. From day one the club opened, they've exceeded their DA noise level at least 2 to 3 times a week. It is now almost 2 years since we tried to get them to comply, resorting to getting the City of Fremantle's Environmental Health Department as the owners and operators didn't want to talk to us. This is still not resolved, as the owners of Honky Tonk believe it is their right to be above the noise level quoted by them in their article published in the West Australian on the 16th of April this year. Joshua states that if you want a good night's sleep from the Cappuccino Strip to the West End, maybe you should live elsewhere. He states that residential construction is killing his business and that developers should do more to coexist with live venues. I say a change of use of spaces from the current to nightclub and live venues is killing inner city living. Joshua quotes, saying that when a residential complex is built next to a club, that the developer should take in account the club in the vicinity and build accordingly. I agree. However, when a club opens in the middle of a residential area, the club then should take measures to comply with the required noise levels for that area. The DA for the current Honky Tonk stated that they were going to be under the required noise level. We are now nearly 2 years down the road and they still are not able to achieve this DA level. The new application states that they will be over the noise level, but asks us to trust them to manage the noise level. Where will we be in 2 years' time? History has any bearing, Honky Tonk must fix their current commitments before they should even contemplate increasing the noise level with an extension. The last 2 years have been at a great cost to my corporate body, surrounding residents and the City of Fremantle, who seem to be never-ending back and forward outcome. We do a noise reading via the council. The result is that they're well over the limit. They say they have fixed the problem. We do another noise reading and they say they have fixed the problem. This is repeated for 2 years. In 2023, the previous DA was passed. The noise issue was raised with the City of Fremantle, David Millwood. I was assured by him that the council had means to enforce noise level compliance. I was informed wrongly. Honky Tonk knows that, and that is why they're still trying to get compliant after 2 years. This application should not only be refused, but because of the past history, but the previous application should be enforced immediately, and they should close down till they complete and comply with their previous DA. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. We'll just take all the comments on this item one after the other. So, Alec Capozzi.
Good evening. I wish to make a statement in objection to the change in use proposed for 81 High Street, Fremantle. I live in the Resident 3 top floor balcony mentioned as being the most effective property with respect to the noise under the application's acoustic report. I hold significant concerns with regards to the appropriateness and compliance of the proposed development given the following. 1. Based on the building's current condition, the noise present on my balcony from the proposed change in use business would be 69 decibels, exceeding the allowable limit by 40%. The report indicates this will be mitigated by a number of measures. However, this is a desktop assessment and no physical testing has been conducted to evidence compliance. It is difficult to underemphasise just how close the windows proposed to be additionally glazed in the acoustic report are from the balcony which opens into my bedroom. Given it's only within a few metres of my bedroom window, it's hard to believe how noise will be captured within the roof envelope. 2. There is already a number of substantial outstanding complaints and, to my knowledge, a number of non-compliant occurrences during testing with the existing ground floor premises 81 High Street. This being extremely relevant given A, likely this previous application was approved through a similar desktop performance solution and it still has not achieved the required outcome, perhaps as a result of the construction solution not performing as required, or likely that the premises has not strictly operated to the noise generation assumptions of the report. And B, given the comments raised in a recent Western Australian article, the common operator of both its existing and new premises has shown a complete disregard of the viability of inner city residents and the loss of amenities excess noise may create, dispelling any doubt that we will avoid a similar scenario under this new application. 3, despite what may be indicated by the applicant, this new change in use premises remains an outlier in terms of usage within this pocket of High Street. As can be seen in the acoustic report, this property is surrounded by a number of residential premises on all sides of the proposed nightlife venue. From the National Hotel to the intersection of Pakenham Street and High Street, the majority of properties are either residential, accommodation or commercial properties which operate during the daytime, whilst the adjacent street which backs onto this premises, Bannister Street, is almost entirely residential and accommodation properties, hotels. With the exception of an extension to the northeast of 81 High Street, all these residential properties predate either the change in use for the ground floor honky tonk or the current application. To summarise my objection, A, the current application illustrates significant non-compliance with theoretically unproven solutions. B, the existing premises has a number of outstanding complaints. C, the use will represent an outlier among adjacent properties. D, the proposed operator of this premises has shown a complete disregard of the noise concerns raised and the requirements to protect the amenities of the significant number of nearby residential premises. Given what I have stated, I cannot see how the council in good conscience can approve this application. This decision is our only opportunity to mitigate compounding an existing issue and avoid future complaints which will undoubtedly occur if this application is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Alec. We now move to Craig Wallace.
Good evening, councillors. My name is Craig Wallace. I'm a partner at a law firm called Lavin. I'm a town planning and environment lawyer for my sins. I should also say that it's not my core business to object to good planning proposals, but in the circumstances that we find ourselves in now, my experience may be relevant. It's clear that It's clear from the deputations or the comments you've heard to date, as well as the agenda, there's a history between the applicant at number 4 Bannister Street and this venue. There may be a difference of opinion in relation to whether or not the issues have been resolved, but there's a clear agreement that there has been a significant amount of time, effort and money spent in trying to resolve the noise complaint that's currently there. So the purpose of my deputation is to try and avoid a continuation or perhaps an escalation of that issue that may arise in the context of an application to extend a tavern use. There's two distinct issues that I want to make clear to you. The first one is quite clearly evident in the Herring and Storer acoustic report provided with the application. Now, noise reports are inherently difficult to read and confusing. But I wouldn't mind drawing your attention to a couple of key provisions. One is the Table 4 assigned outdoor noise level, and in particular reference to the residential premises at 43 decibels. And also the assessment of those noise levels against, in particular, Residence 3, which is at 4 Bannister Street. And what you will see is that there is an exceedance of 19 decibels. That's not a small exceedance, that's an exponential exceedance. And what that means is that this development has a lot to do. But if you turn the page to the conclusions, there are a few upgrades recommended with a significant number of ors in relation to what you could do, not just in relation to the building fabric, but also in relation to the manner in which this place operates. You do not have that information in front of you. Perhaps the biggest issue that we see is in relation to the notion of amenity. Amenity is a concept that's well known in a planning context and one that you know is a relevant consideration under the deemed provisions. The notion of amenity does take into account noise. Noise the noise regulations and compliance with the noise regulations can assist in understanding whether or not there is a significant impact on amenity. But there is case law that suggests that that's not the only consideration. There is case law that suggests, and it's outlined in my written submission, that simple compliance does not alleviate the question of significant impact on amenity. So what I would say that you're required to do in this circumstance is take into account the relevant considerations set out in Clause 67. First of all, the history of this site, when you know there's significant dispute and complaint in relation to noise-related issues, as well as amenity. And amenity, when you look at those things in whole, I'd be submitting that this development or the application that you have in front of you cannot be approved because of the significance of the exceedance. If you disagree with me about that, I would suggest to you that you don't have enough information to approve it because there's no information in relation to mitigation and the operational management, no validation of the position in relation to those issues, and no package in front of you that puts all of those things together. Importantly, it's this package, the report, that will take its place in the conditions and is required to be implemented. That's imperative to how this place operates if you do approve it.
Craig, could I just mention, you're over the 3 minutes.
I beg your pardon.
And I'll just mention too that we have all received your submission, and I certainly have read it, as have several of the others. So
I'm grateful. And in relation to the conditions, I'll just say that it's important that those conditions, if you do approve it, relate to an actionable report to provide the landowners around this site some comfort in relation to how this place will be managed, but also to provide the council, the council officers with the tools to regulate it.
Thank you very much. We now have Luke Dujmovic. Did I say that reasonably okay? Thank you.
Good evening, council members. I've just attended today. We're the property owner over at 81 High Street, so I'm one of the family members that represent the site. And look, I just wanted to put a bit of a brief history together in regards to the site. As you would be aware, it's a heritage listed site. It's a Federation-free classical style 2-storey rent development. Originally a drapery building that was built in 1903. It's subsequently gone through a number of reiterations of use through that period of time, which during the 1920s, right through to 2016 at the end of the RSL Whyalla Club. So my father purchased that site in 2012. At the time, I remember that he brought us down and said it needs a fair bit of work, which we understood was true at the time. Now, I probably want to take the next step in talking about heritage activation. So part of our business and what we do is we look at a site, we improve it, we pay respect to the heritage materials, and we try and activate it the best we can. And I think that's a very difficult thing to do in the city of Fremantle. Not through the restrictions, it's more so through being respectful to the heritage site and being able to do a number of material changes and be able to work with the heritage listed building. So in repurposing this building, we've also completed a similar application in Bannister Street, which at the time was probably non-activated for about 20 odd years. That's subsequently been a restaurant in Lions and Tigers, and now it has an Australian Maritime Training Centre. And hand on heart, we essentially are south of the river people. We are people from, originally from Spearwood, grew up in South Fremantle all of our life, and look, by no means are we professionals at speaking at council meetings. However, we try our best in trying to put our, point across. So when we talk about the challenges that we faced along the journey, so in 2012, when my father bought the site, we've subsequently spent a decade renovating, improving, and bringing the site back up to the current BCA and the current NCC requirements for the site, which is by no means quite an easy feat. Along this journey, part of the challenges Fremantle in terms of activating Fremantle and having a cohesive tenancy there, we've tried a number of short-term rentals, pop-ups, hidden treasures, community events, as well as countless amounts of trials. I'll bring you to Roadhouse Promotions, or better known as Honky Tonk. So when this application came across our desk, we were a bit surprised. We were a bit hesitant. Like a lot of places in Fremantle, they come and they go. This company turned up to us with the application. They had a business plan. They took into account a number of items that we hadn't even considered. We essentially consulted with them. We consulted with experts in the industry in terms of building certifiers, racing, gaming and liquor prior. We engage with community. We also engage with Herring Scorer, the acoustic consultants, and I believe that there's been a fair amount of effort in regards to complying with every single condition that was put forward to Roadhouse Promotions.
Luke, you're well over the 3 minutes mark.
Okay,
Do you wind up, please? Yeah.
I'll finish up.
Yeah, thanks.
So, in regards to the first floor, again, I see that the tenant is taking a leap of faith, and they certainly have put their planning in place. They've certainly consulted with all the consultants that are required. And I'll just bring you to the strategic Fremantle strategic plan. So there's a key focus in that Fremantle strategic plan. It's a livable city, vibrant, socially connected and desirable, thriving city, prosperous and innovative economy, creative city, a city that is inspiring, diverse and dares to be different, resilient city, a resilient city that plans for the future and empowering to take action, an inclusive city that welcomes, celebrates and cares for all people, cultures and abilities. So I failed to see how this application has ticked every single one of those boxes whilst complying with all the requirements under the DA, with a submission process that has taken roughly about 5 months. It's had RFI, requests for further information. It's had Herring Score to produce 2 reports. It's had live testing completed on site in the Quattro apartments also. So I don't believe that it's quite factual in saying that there has been no consultation and attempt to comply with all.
Great, thank you. I will start keeping people to that 3 minutes, because if we keep going over, we'll be here for a very long time. So if people could try and keep their comments brief, and if somebody's already said something that you would have said, just please say that you concur with what they've said. So next person is Amber Hatton.
Hi, councillors. My name is Amber. I'm a proud Freo local who has lived in the West End for many years. I am also head of programming and marketing at Honky Tonk Blues. Nearly 2 years ago, we opened our doors with a simple goal: to create a space where everyone feels welcome. Since then, Honky Tonk has made a huge impact on Fremantle's music and events scene, drawing a demographic that ranges from 18 to 85-year-olds. This is evident by the line down the street, national headlines, the momentum throughout the community, going viral on social media, and the national recognition across the Australian music industry. We've built a home for connection, creativity, and celebration, and people are showing up in force. In that time, we've paid over $4.5 million in wages to local musicians, hospitality staff, sound engineers, creatives, and more, all while operating as a free entry venue. We do it because we love it, because we believe in what happens when strangers share a dance, a song, and a story. But we've outgrown the space, and this expansion gives us the opportunity to meet the demand we already have and serve the community on a much deeper level. Upstairs will become a vibrant, flexible venue for cultural and community events, exhibitions, private functions, dance classes, weddings, workshops, ticket events, and so much more. This includes events like Future Treasures, a collaboration with the City of Fremantle that's designed to educate and inspire today's youth. One of the several initiatives we will proudly deliver in partnership with the City. With your support, we can revitalise a long vacant heritage space and make it fully accessible to all. This space will be run by locals for Fremantle. I can't emphasise this enough. It is guaranteed to boost the local economy. We regularly welcome guests from across WA, including regional areas who travel a great distance for the sole purpose of experiencing what we have created in the West End. Approving the development means revitalising a historic West End building for fully accessible public use, creating new jobs across hospitality, music and events, keeping the West End humming with culture and connection, boosting the local economy and tourism, delivering a versatile space for community-led programming, responding to real visible demand, investing in a cultural hub that's already thriving and ready to grow, and backing a passionate team that reinvests in people, not profit. Fremantle is built on culture and creativity, and this is the chance to double down on that. We've proven we can deliver, we've sparked joy, created jobs, and built something game-changing for this city. Now we're asking for the chance to take it one step further and give the community what they've been asking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. We now have Joshua Paparo, who's also going to speak on item 1.
Hello, councillors. I think I'm the last one, possibly.
No, one more.
My name's Josh. I grew up on Russell Street, played in bands in the 90s at places like the Seaview and the Harbourside. I moved home from a couple of decades abroad in London in the middle of the pandemic to open Honky Tonk. Basically, with the push upstairs, it's about just, servicing the community. We've always been a bar that's let the public decide what we're doing, and now it's, there's 3 line dancing nights a week, for example. So if any of you were to follow me down there after this meeting, and you're welcome to, you will see a queue that goes almost to Pakenham Street. It'll be a full line dancing class inside from 7:30 to 9:30. The most popular drink at that point is soda water. It's just, young people having a good time, meeting each other and learning how to do something different, which is dancing. So the first obvious example use for the upstairs would be on, say, a Wednesday when there isn't a function booked, to host the line dancing class up there where there's more space for people to move around, because it does get pretty crammed. It's, I believe, a good thing, and it's part of, we have a queue out the door on Fridays, Wednesdays and Saturdays, and if we have this upstairs area, which is going to have sort of a cascaded smaller speaker system for sort of conversational music, bringing that queue off the street is hopefully helpful to the surrounding residents. I do want to just address a couple of points. We did do extensive acoustic testing with real physical apparatus. You've got the reports from that. We did acoustic testing of the existing bar downstairs last November, where members of the environmental group from council were on hand to show that we are compliant. We've spent a lot of money on downstairs, tens and tens of thousands, in terms of adding sort of sound attenuating measures. It's probably close to $250,000 that will get spent on the roof of the building should we go upstairs and this DA is approved. And that would benefit the whole building. So that's what we're looking at. In conclusion, I believe this is a good thing for Fremantle, to have this space for young people. We manage it well. And you can talk to liquor licensing, you can talk to Fremantle Police, you can talk to various groups who continually book functions with us. We're a safe venue and we look after young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joshua. We do have two more listed here. Robert Mackham, is it? Malcolm, sorry, I was trying to read the word.
Hello, councillors. Thank you for letting me speak today. I'm going to be quick. I put forward a written objection and all that stands. I don't need to rehash all those points here. I'm a homeowner at 93 to 95 High Street. We share a back alley with Honky Tonks Bar. Our property was not identified as residential in the acoustic report, and we can hear what's going on inside the bar. But I'm primarily here to talk about waste management. The back alley used to be quite a lovely experience. We use it every day, and we've watched as the amenity of that alleyway has deteriorated as Honky Tonks has started to use it for their bottle bins and oil vats, which leak all over the alleyway, creating quite a big problem. My primary problem is the glass shards that occur frequently. I invite everyone here, I invite the management of Honky Tonks to just have a walk through the back alleyway and see if you can't spot a shard of glass. The shards are now ground into quite small pieces, but on occasion they can also be the butt end of a whiskey bottle, which creates a knife edge sharp piece that stands up and is quite dangerous. I've also seen the council, the councillors who have suggested that perhaps a complaints manager might be appropriate. I just want to share my experience in putting complaints to Honky Tonks Bar. The approach has always been the same. I've put 3 complaints forward. I'm not a serial complainer. In each case, it's been deny all liability, shift blame, and do nothing about it. I've twice asked them to clean the back alley of the glass shards, and they've tried to blame other people for that. They can't be, they're not responsible for the glass in the alleyway. It could have come from anywhere. It could be the bums or the homeless people that frequent the alleyway, according to them. I found that really disrespectful and disheartening to get that response. And in response to my sound objection, which I've only done once, it was the same, deny responsibility and try and shift blame. Perhaps you're hearing some other venue. It's clear to me because we share, I think we're probably one of the closest residential properties. It's in Honky Tonks, and I just urge the council to show a bit of restraint before you engage with any increasing of the capacity of this venue. They're not compliant with their current waste management plan, and any increased capacity will only bring more waste. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Robert. We have last one, Joe Altieri.
Good evening and thank you, councillors. I'm an owner of one of the apartments at Bannister Street as well. I'll concur with a lot of the noise complaints that we've already had, but I'm more concerned my level of balcony is in line with the first floor of the proposed venue. We've already noted that there's been noise level complaints already that have not been adhered to, and I find it and really concerned that if it's passed that these noise levels are not going to be addressed, and it'll be an ongoing concern as it already has been. As per one of the proprietors of Honky Tonks, Joshua Paparo's reference to an article in the West Australian, it says the sound is just going to transmit straight through. Apparently, they already know that this noise level is going to exist and go through. Also, in the application, the upstairs venue, they want to put it to their discretion as to what use they're going to use. And I could only just imagine that on the Friday and Saturday nights, it'll be just full-on music at God knows whatever levels of noise it's going to create. And being at that top level, I can only imagine that noise is going to pass right through the apartments because there's no walls or trees or anything to buffer the sound. Secondly, I'd just like to say, I don't know how many more venues of this type we can have in Fremantle. I'm sure we have more than enough venues that accommodate music, live music, bands, and so on. Also, I just want to put, surely the residents have a right to some peace and quiet. I mean, it is a city and we live in the city, so I'm sure that they have a right to live peacefully as well. And the vibrancy in the city doesn't just come from venues. It is the actual people that live in the city as well that add to the culture of the town. So I just hope that you take that into consideration when making your deliberations. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Joe. That's the last person to speak on item 1. Now, we can go into the deliberation on this item, but if anyone who wishes to speak on the remaining items wants to speak now before we do that, they're very welcome to speak if they need to leave more quickly. Otherwise, we'll deal with this item and then go to the next and take all the speakers on the subsequent items then. So does anyone wish to speak sooner? No. Okay, well, we'll go to item 1. So we have a recommendation for approval from the officers, and we have two other items. One is a motion to defer, and one is an amendment on the books. So, so we could move the officers' rec, or we could move deferral, or no, what would people like to do? Just giving people choice?
Can I ask just a process question?
Yeah.
Just because we're so thin on the numbers tonight, I just would like maybe some clarification from the governance officer as to what, on these items, what voting requirements are to approve or reject certain items. And then also, I believe in order to defer an item, it first has to be moved.
Yeah.
Can you clarify that?
That's right. Okay, well, let's, well, I will move.
Do you want me to deal with it?
Yes, okay. Or we can just move it.
Thank you. Through the chair, each of the items tonight require a simple majority, so we do have that in the room tonight. And in regards to the deferral, we can open with the officer's recommendation, or we can move the deferral straight off the bat, basically. If somebody would like to move that, because it has been foreshadowed already.
All right, then I would, I'd like to move the deferral on this item.
Is there a seconder to a deferral? Seconded by Councillor Moughlin.
Great, and I guess just real briefly on the deferral, you know, I think there are, the applicants have said in their speech that they really want to, you know, let the public decide what they're doing, and we've heard a lot of things tonight from members of the public who would like to see better sound attenuation measures in place. And so hopefully a deferral would give the applicant a little bit of time to maybe relook at their acoustic report and any other additional measures that they could potentially do to alleviate some of those concerns that the public may have. They could also look at their waste management plan and potentially make some changes to that. There's a list of things on the deferral that I would appreciate the applicant to consider. I do think personally that it's a, you know, we want to see these spaces activated, but we also need to find that good balance between residents and venues that are maybe a bit boisterous, like ones like this. So if I could move the deferral, the reasons are all listed in the deferral, but it's that way it's not being approved or rejected tonight. We can get some more information.
Thank you, Councillor Lorver. Councillor Moughlin, did you wish to speak as the seconder?
Sorry, there's no debate on the deferral, Madam Chair.
Sorry?
No debate on the deferral.
Oh.
The seconder can speak.
Yeah, I thought the seconder could speak, yes. Councillor Moughlin.
Okay, I'll take that opportunity then. Thank you. Yeah, maybe just echoing some of the sentiments from Councillor Lorver, but also to suggest, and my main concern around this is particularly we have spoken and we do know that we want Fremantle to be a vibrant and livable city, and that was, both the proponent and residents spoke about Fremantle being vibrant and livable. And my concern from this proposal at this point in time is that there's too much uncertainty associated with the application, and to understand whether we can have that coexistence of the extension to the venue with the residents. And particularly as an absolute supporter of live music and the like, I don't want to see Fremantle become a place where we allow venues to develop, if you like, and then create issues for the live music industry, which are unintended consequences where it gets demonised for having impacts on residents. And I would prefer to see that there are strong controls in place to ensure that we get that balance right. So I think some additional time and work put in to address those areas that have been spoken about there, and would encourage and hope that if the deferral does get up, that those conversations are had with our officers, and the intent to support a venue such as this, but to get the balance with residential areas right.
Thank you, Councillor Moughlin. Did anybody else wish to speak on this? Yeah, okay, so we'll just take it to a vote. All those in favour of deferring the item? Those against? Those? Councillor Williamson Wong? Yeah, okay, thank you. The motion is carried to defer the item. So that will go back to the staff and will be discussed further by the council before coming back to the chamber. Thank you. So we'll move on to item 2. So we have several people wishing to speak on this item as well. Steve Gorman.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and councillors. Before I start my presentation, I would like to commend the previous speakers, all of whom put forward very powerful and thought-provoking arguments on that item. And I think they all relate to this item as well. The Navy Club redevelopment plans is not an application for a licensed hotel as understood by most people. Rather, it's an exercise intended to obtain a licensed environment for the use of several hundred in-house backpackers. The proposal is intended to double the existing backpacker accommodation numbers, which are currently on Pakenham Street, and to concentrate their activities in licensed areas incorporated into the much larger operation. The acoustic impact statement does not fully address the noise impact from any parts of the building, let alone the open-air rooftop licensed bar. This licensed area is intended to be open 7 days a week until midnight. A rooftop licensed bar open until midnight would give rise to a significant increase in noise echoing out onto the West End, across the residential Rialto Hotel and the apartments on Henry Street, all of which are in visual sight of the current Navy Club, and also to the east, impacting apartments on Pakenham Street and even up High Street. Late night noise pollution is guaranteed to happen if the licensed area is not controlled by restricted hours and increased acoustic barriers. residential properties have been developed in response to council's policy of encouraging developments on the streets of Henry and Pakenham Street. Fremantle Council actually sold West End property to encourage residential development, and now the streets involved have significant numbers of rate-paying residential buildings. I would encourage council to request that double or treble glazed windows be mandatory for any licensed area in this or any proposed licensed premises in Fremantle to more effectively retain noise within the licensed areas. I did not see a comprehensive fire engineer report on the item. I may have missed it, but with the modifications inside and the large number of people that are going to be packed in, 8 to 10 to a room, I would assume that the fire regulations would be somewhat heightened compared to what a general residential building would be. Any use of the right-of-way between the two backpacker buildings should be conditioned by council. Fire egress, waste management, which has already been spoken about, it's a serious issue that council has to take into account. Buildings in the West End, heritage buildings, are not meant and not built to be party venues, never were. They were pubs, and the pubs did not operate 100 years ago, did not operate till midnight. I note the council recently refused an application for a brewery in Pakenham Street. That makes sense to me. But be aware, this application is likely to have a greater impact on residential amenity. I urge a deferral at the best of the application to address these concerns so the council planning controls can be clearly identified over the redevelopment rather than relying on liquor licensing regulations to regulate future problems that are sure to arise. And I would just note, popularity is not a good planning basis. And again, heritage buildings are never going to achieve soundproofing required with modern music and large numbers of partygoers. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. We now move to Mark Croom.
Chair and councillors, my name's Mark Croom. I'm the president of the Navy Club in Fremantle and talk on their behalf. We're one of the sellers of 1 to 464 High Street. We are very invested in this development application. The future of the Navy Club itself, which has been around in Fremantle since 1947, depends on the approval of this development application. As to the previous speaker's noise complaint, the Navy Club has been there in this building since 1994, and we have had a liquor licence on the top floor since that time. Our hours have been from 10 until 12 midnight, and we have had live music at that venue on Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays. We have never, ever received a noise complaint from this venue. Thank you.
Thank you. We now go to John Delph.
Good evening, Council. My name is John Delph, and I'm the Treasurer of the Fremantle Buffalo Club. I'd like to talk about the amended acoustic report as part of this DA. And I'd just like to quote a little bit from the report here. This is in regards to noise ingress, so noise coming from outside going into the proposed development. Background noise levels were recorded on the 17th of October at approximately 3 p.m, which would be considered representative of peak hour traffic. So it seems the acoustic report has not taken into account noise ingress from neighbouring hospitality venues or live music venues. It's only measured noise ingress from vehicular traffic in the afternoon. We are concerned that the proposed development has completed insufficient testing. The Buffalo Club runs live music on Fridays and Saturday nights, and we'd essentially like to avoid a situation where we receive noise complaints in the future. We would encourage council to defer this application and request further information from the applicant around noise ingress from adjoining hospitality and live music venues at peak noise times for these venues, namely 9 p.m. to midnight on a Friday or a Saturday night. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rebecca Thompson?
Hi, my name's Beck Thompson. For those of you who don't know me, I'm on the committee of the Fremantle Buffalo Club. We are a huge community volunteer-run club, 100% not-for-profit and run by volunteers. We're about to reach 1,000 members, which is amazing. And we touch many corners of the Fremantle community. We are a multi-generational club. Some of our oldest members are in their 90s, while some of our youngest are 18. We run community events. We provide a free meeting space upstairs, a multidisciplinary use space. We incubate artists. We allow people to fail because we don't need to make a profit. But we also have become one of Fremantle and WA's premier live music venues, attracting interstate and international acts. In relation to this DA, we've got a few concerns. John has spoken to one of them, particularly around the acoustics. We've also got a few question marks around the right of way, which we do have in that back laneway. And there's been, I guess, a lack of clarity around what the actual use of that next neighbouring hostel, I suppose, whether there's going to be a laneway bar. And that really speaks to the issue that I want to raise around the consultation. So there's been a real lack of consultation, and we believe we've been mischaracterised in this document called Schedule of Submissions, Change of Land Use to Hotel and Internal Fit Out at point 2. Which states the disclaimer, this submission makes reference to the Buffalo Club, a meeting between the proposed landowner / proprietor and the Buffalo Club councillors occurred after this submission was received. As we understand, the outcome of the meeting resulted in the Buffalo Club as an entity is more supportive of the proposed development application. This submission is therefore considered to be independent of the Buffalo Club as an entity. I would like to state it on the record that while I was not at the meeting, I have it from Anna Farrant, who is our Vice President, that at the meeting with the applicant on the 7th of February 2025, the Buffalo Club did not express support for nor enter into any agreement regarding the proposed development. In fact, the Buffalo Club has made multiple genuine attempts to engage in meaningful consultation with the applicant, all of which have been declined or ignored. We remain hopeful that moving forward, the applicant will commit to a more constructive and transparent dialogue with the aim of achieving an outcome that serves the interests of both parties. And in that vein, to echo what John Delph has called for, we are seeking that the decision on this DA be delayed. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have Daniel Elias.
Hello, Council. My name is Daniel Elias. I am on the Buffalo Club committee as well. I'm just here to point out some inconsistencies in the application. that will impact our operational capacity. So we are seeking we're seeking clarity on whether the gate to the right of access will be built or not. There is conflicting information on the schedule of submissions and applicants' response and the agenda and the response for further information request. The Fremantle Buffalo Club has a legal entitlement to access the right-of-way. The right-of-way gives us the capacity to take in deliveries, manage our commercial waste. It is our emergency fire exit, so it impacts our alliances and allows fire brigades to come in and out. I just need to clarify that. And as my colleagues have said already, seek deferral for this.
Great, thank you. We now move to Sylvia Mara.
Good evening, councillors and members of the community. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Sylvia Mara and I'm here to support our proposal.
Could you please speak into the microphone? Maybe you need to just
Sure.
move it down a little
Move
bit.
it down.
Or something. Yeah, thanks.
My name is Sylvia Mara and I'm here to support our proposal for the development application of a backpackers accommodation facility within our community. This project is designed not only to meet a growing demand in Fremantle, but also to support local economy growth, cultural exchange and tourism sustainability. The project will retain and restore this heritage building, which has been partially occupied by the Navy Club, but it has also been empty for many years. With your support, we can revitalise this building and bring it to life and bring life to Fremantle. Backpackers and budget travellers, they form an essential part of the tourism economy. They stay longer, spend steadily and support local businesses, from cafes and transport operators to adventure providers and local markets. We rely on backpackers for employment that support important tourism sectors such as Rottnest Island and farming industries. By establishing a well-managed, environmentally conscientious backpackers facility, we aim to welcome this vital demographic while preserving the character and amenity of the area. We understand the need to balance development with community expectations, and we commit to be good neighbours. That means transparency, accountability, and working alongside council to ensure all regulations and concerns are addressed properly. In conclusion, we believe backpackers facilities represent an opportunity to responsibly grow our local tourism and also to provide affordable accommodation options. In particular, now that the new regulation started on the 1st of April with Airbnb being banned for 2 years for private houses, where would these travellers go? Thank you.
Great, thank you. And we have one more, Lisa James.
Hi, the points I wish to speak to, some people have already covered this evening, so I will try not to recover them, but I have my script, so I apologise if I'm repetitive in that manner.
Great, thank you.
As a resident of Henry Street in Fremantle's West End, I wanted to speak to you to formally object to the recommendation that was made in your agenda today to approve the proposed change of land use application in its current form, without adequate conditions as per the concerns we initially raised in a letter submitted to Senior Planning Officer Jonathan Dornan on the 3rd of February this year. We oppose it in its current form for some key reasons that have already been mentioned, but mainly we are deeply concerned about the noise and amenity impacts. The acoustic impact assessment seems to be entirely inadequate and also misleading. It outlines that a rooftop bar will operate, yet within the same report also seemingly indicates that these details are unknown. We do experience significant noise from the Navy Club currently when their windows are left open. However, as mentioned, this is currently ordinarily restricted to a weekend. As mentioned, the Fremantle Hostel will, after this approval, be applying for a hotel licence, allowing their rooftop bar to open to both residents and the public until midnight. This means that there is absolutely no provision, unlike what's stated in the application, that the music played will be at ambient and background levels only. The claim, therefore, within the acoustic assessment that the main source of noise will be air conditioning is clearly untrue, given that a bar operating until midnight most nights is proposed. The hotel licence will also allow extended trading hours, increasing the likelihood of prolonged noise, foot traffic and late night disturbances. Though there is intent mentioned to install internal glazing, as it's only 6mm in thickness, it therefore offers limited sound insulation of only around 27 decibels. Though this might be adequate for noise ingress, it seems wholly inadequate for noise egress, i.e. noise escaping from the premises under these circumstances. The application suggesting compliance is expected to be analysed later in future phases of the project seems clearly unacceptable given the inadequate consideration I've just outlined and some of the comments I've already heard earlier this evening. Second, the development seems to dismiss the needs of staff vehicles, service vehicles and visitors, which will obviously worsen existing parking and traffic pressures in the area. Finally, the plan to use the laneway as an outdoor alcohol consumption area raises significant safety and security concerns, and no proper risk management or emergency access plans seem to have been provided. In conclusion, this proposal presents threats to the livability of the Fremantle community, so I strongly urge the City of Fremantle to reject the application in its current form and instead consider imposing conditions on this development in relation to these concerns, or consider deferment to acquire further information, as others have mentioned. Thank you for listening.
Great, thank you. Are there any other people who wish to speak on this item? We don't have any others listed. Great, thank you. Well, we do have the motion before us for approval, and we have an amendment proposed by Councillor Sullivan. So is there somebody who would like to move the motion?
I'll just point out too, there is a deferral motion, it's not listed.
Oh, okay, I don't have that before me.
It'll be procedural anyway, that's fine.
Okay. Would anybody like to move either the deferral or the motion that's before us?
I will move the deferral motion.
Seconded by Councillor Williamson-Wong.
We're going to have to open the offices because it's procedural motion, it hasn't been foreshadowed beforehand.
So we have to do what?
Nobody's seen the deferral motion, so you're going to have to open the offices first and then move.
Sorry, we were just getting something clarified. Because this deferral motion wasn't foreshadowed, we need to move the officer's recommendation first and have it seconded, and then we can go to a deferral. So Councillor Lorva is moving the officer's recommendation, seconded by Councillor Thompson. I'll pass it over to Councillor Sullivan. Did you wish to speak at this point? Oh, sorry, yes, did you wish to speak at this point? Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say briefly that, while this use is something that I would generally support, the concerns I've had about it are kind of opposite from the last one, where we were considering a music venue expanding and the impact on residents. This is considering a use of a hotel next to an existing venue. And I was really apprehensive about the potential for us to get into another Frio social situation. But it wasn't until after the deadline that my concerns really crystallized. So I was going to flag a deferral, so I would be very supportive of that this evening. And just the reasons I think are the ones that were described by the folks in the gallery tonight. The waste management concerns, the clarifying the laneway access, addressing the background noise levels, the ingress during
peak times when the adjoining properties are actually being used. Those are the kinds of things that I would like to see to get more clarity on the impacts, because, just, approving a hotel right next door to a very successful club would be, I'm not quite there yet. So a deferral is something that I would really like to support.
Thank you. I'll ask Councillor Williamson-Wong if she would like to speak as the seconder of the motion.
I did not second this motion, but I will take the opportunity to speak, if that's okay.
Oh. She seconded it.
No, don't need to speak.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Thompson seconded it.
Yes.
My apologies.
That's
Councillor Thompson, did you wish to speak on this item? No. Councillor Williamson-Wong.
Thank you. I will take the opportunity to speak now. As we've seen, I will be supportive of a deferral if that does is brought up later in the discussion. I think the current application as it stands has a couple of alarming features, which I think require some clarification before I'm happy to make a decision. The first being around the acoustic report and that of the rooftop bar. The rooftop bar in the acoustic report is pretty much, the detail is we don't know any details, so we can't make any comments, and that there will only be background noise, which I think is slightly optimistic as to someone who will then be able to get a liquor license for that space, and the intention to be to make a profit up there. And the second is the arrangements relating to the right-of-way, and I might actually seek a clarification from staff around the right-of-way, if we could clarify whether or not the gate stands in the current application as amended by the applicant after discussion, as well as whether or not the application includes an area that is for a bar in the right-of-way.
Through the chair, the current application in front of us does not include the gate or use of the right-of-way. It doesn't include the right-of-way lot at all. After discussion with the applicant and raising the issue of the gate closing access to other landowners, they opted to remove it at this stage. Thanks. A further clarifying question, if I may. If the applicant was hypothetically looking to put in a bar or use that right-of-way for a more permanent / movable situation, would that come in this application, or would that need to come in separately, or is it something that's worked out given a right-of-way is a legal arrangement between landowners? If the applicant were to propose to use that space for a land use, so for a bar space, it would need approval. Whether they combined it with this application, they would need the landowner approval to lodge it, or they could do it separately. I don't think officers would support the use of that, given its primary role is for access. Thank you. Yeah, I think that the lack of information around the right-of-way use, although that clarification was helpful, and the fact that so many important venues use that as a fire escape, which is of course a primary concern for us as a council, and the lack of information in the acoustic report means that I wouldn't necessarily be ready to make a final decision on the application as it stands. Similar, I think, to the previous item, it is a funny balancing act that we have to be careful to make in the West End, because we've seen a great uptake in music venues and the revitalisation of an activation, I guess, at night time, and how we balance that with daytime activation as well, and also with the intention of bringing new residents in to live and bring daytime economy, activation, culture, all of these things into that area of the city. So those are the points that I really wanted to make now, and yeah, we'll be happy to support deferral if flagged or flagging.
Is there any further discussion? Would somebody like to move a deferral? Councillor Sullivan.
Well, assuming no one else wishes to speak before I move a deferral.
I did
Okay.
ask. Yeah.
Councillors, I apologise, obviously the deferral motion wasn't listed in the additional documents. The reality is, as we all know, we've all been spending about a week. I hadn't moved it yet. I'm speaking on the motion first. So I'm speaking on the motion, and then I will move the deferral as part of that conversation, as I'm entitled to do at any stage. So the reality is, literally we have every person in this room, I think, has been spending the entire last 7 days going through each of these two very important items, really trying to understand the detail of the applications. In this one particularly, has been challenging but the other one as well, because it actually has appeared to be a moving target throughout the process of the application, where the beginning of the applications are saying one thing, and then you sort of the officers have delved into it in more forensic way, and we end up with applications that are quite different to what we were, or certainly what the officers were told in the beginning. So it's been a really challenging process, and there's no doubt in my mind, and I don't think there's any doubt in any other elected member's mind, that one of our strategic imperatives in the city is definitely to support our cultural industries, and the one that probably needs the most support is the live music industry. And there's no doubt in my mind that we need to do everything that we can to support that. But supporting that blindly in a way that then creates massive pushback is not the right way to go about it. Equally, we want to be supportive of bringing in residents, whether they be permanent residents or visitors or something in between, which backpackers typically are, because they stay for potentially months and months, even years, work in our hospitality industries and the like, and actually contribute significantly to the city. So none of this conversation that we're having tonight about either of these issues is anything but trying to be supportive, but in a balanced way. So when this application comes through, and I'm incredibly familiar with the existing operation because I shared a boundary wall with them for about 6 or 7 years. I don't anymore, so I don't have that interest, so I can participate in this process. But I'm very familiar with the operations, of the Navy Club, and I concur that, it was almost never that you would hear music coming out of the main level. So there are pre-existing situations. But the reality is we only get one chance when these new applications come to actually make really sure that everything that can be done is done to make these venues successful and not have impacts that are outside of the regulations, or perhaps even further than the regulations. Because the reality is, if you don't do that up front, if we don't make sure that these bricks and mortar venues can handle this type of activity, then what happens is we get complaint after complaint after complaint that spiral out of control. And it is absolutely evidenced that it is far more challenging to mitigate a problem once it starts occurring than to fix it as far as reasonably possible at the beginning. And so what these deferrals, and this deferral is basically modelled on the previous deferral. So if councillors wish to read it in full, it was in the email I circulated today at 11:53, so you can look it up, you can read it in full, because obviously it's not going to fit on the screen as usual with anything I write. But the reality, what I am trying to do is not dissimilar to the previous one, which is basically get those things like the waste management plan, things like the acoustic report, upgraded to the extent that we can have confidence, firstly, that the land use is going to be appropriate within those buildings. Not it might be subject to X and Y, but actually that it can, that there is every realistic opportunity that that land use and that building are compatible with each other. And I'm not there yet, and that's why I want it deferred. I'm probably on this one, this one is more if we take the rooftop bar and put it to one side, this one is much more about some of the other activities such as the waste management and the use of the right-of-way, because they are kind of like hanging around the edge of this application. But, we keep getting told they're not specifically related to the application, or that anything in the right-of-way is sort of like not specifically related to the application in a sense. But the reality is that, as it currently stands, we have an existing backpacker who wants to expand their operations into this new building. They already have modes of operation that we would have to basically challenge and say, if we were looking at your approval today, we would not allow you to have 4 rubbish bins out in the street 24/7. We wouldn't allow you to be filling the laneway full of cars and having, endless parties in the laneway and the like. So as an expansion of the existing facility, I think there is an obligation on us to try and deal with the collective impact of this. Now, that's incredibly challenging from a planning perspective, because the officers, I think, have done the right thing in their saying, well, we're only dealing with the application as it stands on one piece of land. But the whole operation of the management plans, the operation of all of this, obviously has to cross boundaries. Their liquor licence proposal, as it stands, by the information that they provided, they're seeking a single liquor licence for a hotel licence for both venues. So, we'd be in the situation where we would have 2 properties with 2 completely separate planning approvals, but a single liquor licence, and trying to deal with the consequences of that. And I'm not comfortable with that, and I would like, which is why I've split my deferral motion into 2 parts. The first part, which is the bit that you can see up on the screen, is very much related to the issues specifically relating to 64 High Street, i.e. the subject site of this application. And the second part of it is to basically require the applicant to provide us with clarification about a range of issues that basically cross beyond their site. So if they submit an application that is effectively across multiple areas and includes conversation about the right-of-way, then I think our staff can actually deal with that. But I think they will need to get legal advice, not only to work out how they can operate a single operation across 2 sites with the right-of-way in between, both from a planning point of view and a liquor licensing point of view, and they need to be able to provide us with some sort of confidence that we will be able to manage the complaints that might come from that. And that's going to be really important. So we have to be confident that we can get these things right. So that's the nature of it. I will move
Councillor Sullivan,
my
just before you do move
Yeah.
your deferral, could I just note that Councillor Lawver has had his light on to
Okay,
speak.
so as long as you're
before-
happy that I can move my deferral, that's why I did ask if there
At
are
some
any other
point, yeah.
speakers. Are you happy that I can move it subsequently? Because I will
Yes.
have already spoken, so you need
I
to
would
rule
be
that I
delighted
can.
if you moved it
Thank you.
subsequently. Thank you. Councillor Lawver.
Yes, thank you. Just a question, because I've already spoke on this item, but although it is planning, we can be a little bit flexible on that. I'm just wondering if because once the deferral is moved, there's no more debate. So I'm just going to ask a question that if this deferral is moved as on the screen and presented to us, if the mover might consider a small amendment to also include in the noise section, or it could be even on the last point, any other measures that consider amenity of guests and the surrounding land uses, something about the ingress noise levels from the adjoining properties, such as the Buffalo Club, to ensure that that is measured and accounted for, so that we don't run into a potential situation with the hotel next to a fabulous club. So some words just to look into that bit.
Did you want to say something? Yes, he's looking at it. Councillor Sullivan, are you happy to accept?
I am. I'm just trying to work out the words.
Yeah. Okay. The staff will draft something now.
Thank you. Just to keep things moving, because it's going to be a late night.
We did move to another speaker. So if you have no more questions of the speaker, I'll just see if anybody else did wish to speak on the motion. No, otherwise we'll just wait for this amendment to come up and then you'll be able to move the amendment or move the deferral.
Well, I'm happy to move it while it happens, and so that we can get the process raging.
Sorry, we're just having a bit of a discussion about who can speak to what, but given that you could certainly move the deferral if no one else wishes to speak, and we'll get a seconder, and then you can speak to your deferral and we'll carry on. So would you like to do that, Councillor Sullivan?
Thank you. I'll move it, and I'll move it as was printed in the email, and it's up on the screen, but I will also move it verbally with the inclusion of the requirement in the acoustic report to assess that that ingress of noise from surrounding, so it's not just Buffalo Club, from surrounding I guess, noise-generating venues.
Okay, the staff are working on that, seconded by Councillor Thompson. So you may speak to the referral back.
Yep, so I've already spoken at length. I don't think I need to say anything more.
Great.
So
We'll just wait for some words to come up.
I will yield until you get some words. While we're waiting, I mean, I would say that the deferral motion is trying to be reasonably comprehensive, but it's never going to be 100%. And even with the last one, there are matters that were in the amendments that I think applicants would want to go and look at. And I think the messaging is very clear that we want you to dot the I's and cross the T's. We want to really understand the ins and outs of these applications. We don't, and I'll excuse my French, we don't want to be bullshitted to. And I think there is a bit of that went on in some of the earlier descriptions of what the applications actually were, perhaps more so with the previous one than this one. We actually need clarity for the sake of our community to do our job properly, which is to get that balance right. So we need to know clearly what it is that you are doing and what it is that you're not doing, and how you're going to protect existing rights, whether they be access rights or amenity rights or any of the other rights that exist.
Okay.
So the dot point added now, I will, yes, confirm that that's acceptable.
Great. So the motion to move that this goes back, referring it back, has been moved and seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favour? That is unanimous, I believe. Yes, thank you. Thank you. So that has been referred back to staff for more consideration of all the issues that have been raised in the referral back. Thank you. So the only other item I've got listed that somebody wishes to speak on is item 6. Which is McCleary Street, Beaconsfield, 2-storey single house.
Thank you, Councillor and staff. My comments and questions are limited to one issue and 4 related queries and some submissions. The topography of the site was altered at the conclusion of demolition work. The site is now higher than it was previously, meaning the existing natural ground level has increased. The increase in the natural ground level has been ignored in considering any planning issues for this issue. The questions I'm asking are fourfold. Was approval given in DA 78/22, which was the demolition of 32 McCleary Street, to alter and increase the existing ground levels? Because this is what actually happened. Second question is, why has no planning condition been added to require the removal of the increase in the ground level as part of the site works in the proposal? The third question is, why has the change in ground level been ignored for all planning considerations? And the fourth question is, why is the alteration and increase in natural ground level not the responsibility of the registered owner? In legal terms, this is like an easement, it runs with the land. When I raised this issue before, I was told that it was the problem of the previous owner. That's not the way the law works, and I think we all know that here. It's not appropriate or relevant to say that the excavation at the rear of the site makes up for this. The excavation at the rear of the site is because there's a swimming pool being installed there. I'm requesting that this is deferred to allow proper consideration, alternatively rejected. And I'll just ask this simple question. If you lived beside this, and if you're going to have a Coogee box put in a street with lots of 100-plus-year-old houses, and the Coogee box is going to be right on the boundary, is it too much to ask that the Coogee box be set at the proper level? So it's about 275 or 280 millimetres. It's just under the size of an A4 sheet of paper. As I say, the whole issue is that, and I'm speaking on behalf of several people in the street, it's not just myself, is that we accept that things can be approved by planning, we accept that there's a discretion, but we struggle to understand why the ground level can be raised, and that is totally ignored in all planning considerations. It was raised without approval. The city is effectively a policeman. It polices illegal buildings and illegal structures. There's been no permission given for this increase in ground level, and as a resident, we expect the council to act as a policeman. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. I might just ask the Manager of Development Approvals to make a comment about the levels issue.
Through the presiding member, the concerns were raised during the submission period, and the officer has reviewed the history of the site, including survey plans that were provided at the time of subdivision, which was before the house was demolished. We don't believe that there's been a significant change in level. I accept that that is a difference of opinion between ourselves and the submitters. Notwithstanding, an applicant or an owner of a site can change the level of their site up to 500 millimetres without planning approval. There are exemptions in that regard. And when you look at this application, they are proposing to excavate at the higher end of the site, and they're about 2 metres below the maximum building height. So even if there has been a change in level, there is still room from what would have been that pre-fill level for them to comply with the building height requirements. So we don't believe that there is an issue.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have an officer's recommendation for approval before us. Is there anybody who wishes to move the recommendation? Well, I will move the recommendation. Is there a seconder? Just for the sake of debate, get it. Councillor Lorver, is there any discussion? Well, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Jemima. Councillor Williamson-Wong.
Thanks. Just a question for the manager. When you say that we had a survey come through before the house was demolished, that survey is before Graham has said that he believes that the change of ground level has happened. Have we had a more recent survey?
Through the chair, a survey was provided with the application for this development as well.
Sorry, is there any more discussion? Councillor Sullivan.
Yeah, I mean, it is something that we have asked the staff about, and the answer has consistently been what the manager provided tonight. And so if there was a survey that existed before demolition and there's a survey afterwards and it's been checked, then I'm confident that that the due process has occurred. I also would argue, not dissimilarly to the speaker, that it is one of these houses which, you kind of go, oh really, is that what the art codes, basically are going to deliver us? You know, I made the comment to others that I'm gobsmacked that anyone would build a house that ends up with all the kids living in bedrooms with highlight windows. It's such a monstrous house by its in the context of its neighbourhood. I'm sure it doesn't need to be that big and imposing. And it does, you know, without being mean-spirited, it kind of says to me, this is all about wealth rather than about health. And those were the comments that I made. It's about, you know, is it a healthy house to live in, or is it just a demonstration of someone's capacity to build the biggest possible house they can? And that worries me. You know, it worries people in Fremantle. It clearly worries people living in Macleary Street. And I would love to be able to say no. I think in the old days we probably would have been allowed to say no. But the level of compliance is such that it's very difficult for us to do anything other than approve it.
Sorry, could I make one further point?
No, I'm sorry. Once we go into debate, we can't enter into discussion.
It's just there's one survey. It was done after the demolition and the land was changed. I just thought it was worth clarifying.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Williamson-Wong?
I'm once again having the great opportunity to go after Councillor Sullivan says all of the coherent things that my brain can't quite do right now. But I do want to note that I think I share the disappointment that something like this is going to be built in a street and in an area which has such diverse and beautiful houses. And the R codes I don't think were ever written to serve Fremantle very well, and we come up against it. But as Councillor Sullivan pointed out, I don't think we're in a position, unfortunately, to refuse it. As it stands, the level of compliance is such that if we were, I would suspect it would be overturned quite quickly. But it is always disappointing to see a big box being built in a space which is already, you know, existing so diverse and beautifully.
Thank you. Is there any further debate on this item? No? Well, then I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. So that is the end of the public question time. Is there anyone else who wishes to ask a question? No. Okay, so we now go back to the remainder of the agenda. We have... I'll go to item 3, Keegan Street, number 7, which I believe we have an alternate no, that's item 5. Keegan Street, straightforward. We've got a deferral motion on this one. Okay, so I'll move the officer's recommendation, seconded by Councillor Mofflin. Councillor Mofflin, did you wish to speak on the motion?
Yeah, just noting that the deferral is down to be considered or potentially considered. I would just like to think because this application came in during that period where the significant tree retention policy was being developed, that the design hasn't taken into consideration opportunities for retention, and I think we should give the proponent an opportunity to see what they might be able to do. Not saying that they would be able to come up with any better outcomes, but I think that's what I would like to be able to see tonight.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Councillor Sullivan.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just take that point a bit further. I did look at this quite closely, assuming that it was going to get dealt with tonight. Obviously, the applicant asking for a deferral means that we can kind of like take a breath. But the reality that I saw initially was very much that the way that you would typically try and develop a block like that for industrial purposes did essentially necessitate the sort of arrangement that was being proposed. But I went out and I had a very close look at the trees and the surrounding area and tried to ponder in my mind what alternatives they might come forward with. And there are other ways of developing the block, but what worries me is that those other ways are actually not going to produce good development within the streetscape. So the impact of keeping the trees in the back southwest corner is going to be such that we're going to end up with a lot of blank walls coming out along the side elevation that are really not going to contribute to the overall streetscape. There are also trees on the immediately adjoining property which are not that far from the boundary, and it could well be that, you know, we end up with a development that impacts those trees, even though they're not on the subject site, in ways that will be detrimental to them into the future. So it is a challenging one, and we added the industrial stuff, I think, fairly late in the process as well. I also note the officer's commentary that really the most important of all of the trees is the tree on the corner, and that there is concern that the development might be too close to it. And the deferral gives the applicant the opportunity to certainly go back and address that. That's relatively easy to do, I would think, without compromising the sustainability of their development. And that's what I would expect our policies to actually deliver, is a better outcome with regard to that. So I just wanted to say those things, because I didn't, you know, the wording of the deferral is good, that it basically gives the applicant that opportunity to either justify their design as it is, or make little changes or make substantive changes, but using the policy to have that conversation about what they ultimately come forward with. So I'll support the deferral on that basis.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the motion? I'll hand it over to Councillor Lawler.
I'd like to move the deferral on this item.
Seconded by Councillor Mofflin.
Great. Yes, so I'll just be very brief, because I think we all know this. I won't repeat what Councillor Mofflin or Councillor Sullivan had just said, but I'll just add that when we adopted this policy, I didn't think any one of us ever thought we would save every single tree in all across where this policy is covered, but we wanted to do better than what was currently happening. And this application will give us a chance to really see an application that came in just before, didn't consider the policy. They want to consider the policy, and I think we're going to get a better outcome, and that is a win in my view. So I look forward to seeing what the applicant can do to reasonably adhere to our new local tree retention policy if this deferral gets up.
Right, well, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favour of deferral? That is unanimous. Thank you. We now move to item 4, which is Wood Street, and Councillor Williamson Wong has declared an interest, and therefore we'll vacate the chamber. Would anybody like to move this motion? Councillor Thompson? Councillor Thompson moved it. Would you like to second it? Councillor Thompson, did you wish to speak on this item? No? Councillor Sullivan, did you wish to speak on it?
You know, only that, you know, I think we all find this one particularly weird, but without actually being able to find something of substance to say no.
I think yes, we did hear about the details of this one and how there would be a much better solution, but it isn't coming at this point. Does anybody else wish to speak on this? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That is also unanimous. Thank you. Could we get Jemima back here? 5 King William Street. So we now move to King William Street, and we do have an alternate motion to this, and we have a deferral motion. I might just mention I only put the deferral motion in because at that point we didn't have an alternate motion, and I'm quite happy to see it get dealt with by Councillor Sullivan. So I just want to make that comment. Well, I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation on this to get the debate going, or Councillor Sullivan could move an alternate motion. All right, I'll move the motion that's... Would you like to move the alternate motion straight away?
I'll move my alternative motion, but I suspect that we should realistically be going to a deferral, but we have to move a motion. So I'll move the alternative.
Sorry, what did you end up doing there?
We just need a seconder for the alternative.
Is there a seconder for the alternate motion? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Sullivan.
I know that sounded like confusion. It seems to be the order of the night. The reality is I put the alternative motion for an approval together, assuming that the applicant was around and that my colleagues would be able to have the opportunity to go out and have a look at it and would be, like me, overwhelmingly convinced that it should go ahead, should get approved. But of course that hasn't been the case. The applicants are unavailable for reasons that they've explained, and I'm not sure whether my colleagues are ready to move towards an approval. If you have looked at it and are, then let me know, because deferring it would be a waste of time if that was already the case. But if you're not in that position, I would more than happily vote for a deferral. So I'll leave it with my colleagues.
Perhaps I'll just add, I did go to the site and have a look, and it seemed to me like a relatively straightforward application, although it's a complex situation in that it's one of those small streets where everything is very crammed in. But I'm quite happy to support the alternate motion on this one. Does anybody else wish to discuss anything on this? Councillor Williamson-Wong. Councillor Lorver.
Yeah, look, I could go with the motion that's before us or a deferral. I'm fine with either way. You know, I appreciate the motion that's before us does include trying to retain that street tree if at all possible in an advice note. Hopefully, if this is approved, the applicant appreciates that advice note and really does what they can to retain that tree, because planting another tree is a somewhat okay outcome, but retaining what we have is always preferred, especially in this kind of situation. But I will support what's before us if that's what we get to. If the deferral gets moved, I'll go with that.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Williamson-Wong.
Thanks. I'm asking another question. Sorry. It's for our manager of development applications. The application has a discretion of how far the car park hangs out in the back, which I think is my main concern in terms of footpath access. Can you please explain to me how allowing the driveway carport would impact on the footpath?
The justification from the applicant is that at present they've got a small car, so at the moment they might be able to fit on site. If someone has a larger car, it is very likely they will sit out across the footpath and potentially block people's access across the footpath. The standards for car bays are really to cater for quite large cars, so you're sort of relying on an individual's behaviour if a car bay is approved in that location.
Is there any further discussion on the proposed approval for this item?
Thanks, Madam Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I haven't said much tonight. I've got a bit of a sore throat. Look, I initially support the officer's recommendation on this, the refusal, and I still support the officer's recommendation for refusal. And it's based on having been down there and had a look at the house, which is a cute little old cottage, very old, of course, which is basically from their front fence to their front door is about where I'm sitting and the computer screen here. So how they expect to get a car bay in there, I will never know. It will detract, obviously, from the look of the house, which I'm sure is on one of the many heritage lists that are floating around tonight. It'd be well and truly a 1900 house. I don't think we'd even approve this on a modern build where potentially you're going to have a bigger car one day. You know, we all don't live forever, and or keep little cars. The modern cars are so much bigger that it's obviously going to fall out onto the footpath. You know, if you go into an old Holden sedan, you'd be halfway over that footpath. So, you know, I think it's really, the officers summed it up correctly in the first place, and I'm going to stick with that. You know, council should look at these sorts of ones, and I'm assuming they get residential parking permits, but it'd be more in, you know, council have a couple of dedicated bays in these little streets for residents only, and first in, first served sort of basis would be a lot better than upsetting the streetscape. And it is a great little streetscape, King William Street, as are all those streets. I don't know about Sydney Street so much, but there's a couple of houses there that are a bit dodgy. But, you know, I really do think I can't support Councillor Sullivan's approval. I could support a deferral to give the applicants the opportunity to come in, and a shame that wasn't perhaps moved. But in the number one, I support the refusal.
Is there any further discussion on the proposed approval? Councillor Moughlin.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just share that I also support the officer's recommendation. So, yeah, the first two items, that the crossover is inconsistent and the size of the bay is tiny, is pretty compelling for me.
Could I just ask the officers, if we were to not approve this approval, I mean, what are the realistic options? I mean, are we able to say something like, you know, that the car cannot extend over the footpath? Because, I mean, they're not meant to. But I just wanted to ask that question.
I guess in theory you could, but it wouldn't meet standards and you wouldn't be able to block a footpath anyway. I think one of the other big elements for this one is the safety of getting in and out with the proximity of the tree as well. So it's not just about the size of the bay on site, it's actually getting in and out, because the tree won't be able to stay if a crossover is installed there.
I'll move a deferral.
Well, I'll second my own deferral then. And given that there can be no discussions on deferrals, I'll put the motion. All those in favour of deferring it. And I might just add that the applicants did seek this to be deferred so they could have more input into it. So all those in favour of the motion to defer? Those against? Where do we end up? 1, 2, 3. Does it approve? Yep. The motion to defer is approved. So that will go back and give the applicant an opportunity to discuss with the planning officers what options they may have, but it does sound like it's pretty slim. Yeah. Okay, thank you. We now move to item 6, McCleary's. Oh, we've done that one. Sorry. Item 7. Could I just ask, besides item 9 and 10, are there any others that people wish to speak on? Oh, and item 14 we need to discuss. Does anybody else wish to speak in any of the other items? So perhaps then I can move item 7, 8, 11, 12, 13 and 15. Is there a seconder? Councillor Thompson. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. And we will move back to item 9, which is the update of the heritage list, and Councillor Williamson Wong has declared an interest and therefore will vacate the chamber. So the motion before us is to endorse the modifications, etc. Is anyone happy to move this? Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Graham. Is there any discussion on this item? No, what then? All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. If we could get Councillor Williamson Wong back. She's coming. Item 10, we have a declaration from Councillor Sullivan, who will now vacate the chamber. Well, I will move item 10, the amendments to the heritage area, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Is there any discussion on this? All those in favour? That is also unanimous. Thank you. Councillor Sullivan is returning. Item 11, we've done. 12, we've done. 13, we've done. Item 14, I'll move item 14, or perhaps Councillor Lawver might like to move item 14, or Councillor Councillor Williamson Wong, sorry, the night is getting long, would like to move it. Seconded by Councillor Lawver. Councillor Williamson Wong, did you wish to speak on this?
Thank you. I won't say too much. I think this is a very exciting pilot that we have the opportunity to endorse tonight. It's a long time coming. I know that discussions around LCAs in our development applications were happening far beyond me even being elected to council. And so I think this is a great piece of work that the Community Emissions Working Group has been able to discuss. What this means is that we will be endorsing for a pilot program to exist. So when a development application comes to the city, they're able to access an LCA. The intention for people who aren't in the working group is to ensure that during the 6-month period, we get a diverse range of all of the applications that we might still see with our powers. So that does include alterations and additions, it includes new home builds, but it also includes projects like our Clontarf development and our Knutsford East, where there are development plan, what are they called? They're called local development plans, where we approve bulk buildings at the same time, or the form of a building, which I think is a very exciting opportunity for many developers. LCA assessments that have been introduced in other councils have shown dramatic reductions in the community in the emissions that a building has over its lifetime. So I'm very excited to see this come through.
Excellent. Councillor Lawver has seconded to the motion.
And I do have a clarifying amendment on this as well, just to, I might get to that in a minute. In principle, I think some of the LCA things in there are really, really great. It includes things like encouraging reflective roofs, better insulation, all those kinds of things. But I just want to say that I'm not 100% on board with adopting an LCA at this point in time, which is why I put forward a clarifying amendment just to not endorse an LCA right now, but to endorse it for the purpose of the trial. Because I'm very happy to see the trial go forward and see how the community responds to it, get that feedback, and then we can have a discussion and debate about what form that might take here in Fremantle. So if there is a seconder for the amendment, I'll just move that now.
Councillor Sullivan has seconded the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? All those in favour? That is unanimous, yes. So is there any further discussion on this, which will be a trial carried out? I think it's fabulous. It'll be really exciting to see how it goes. So there's no further discussion. All those in favour? That is also unanimous. Thank you. There are no working groups, motions, urgent business, late items, confidential business. I think if there's nothing else, we are closed. Thank you very much for coming along.